welcome to another episode of Silver Goose Farm Stories. I'm your host, Mama Goose, aka Maria Silva. For those of you who don't know, I am mom to 5 amazing children, and all of them are so different, and their personalities astound me in so many ways on a regular basis. It's been an incredible blessing to see how they grow up and are developing into their own individual people, and also the sort of struggles that I face as their mother, with my own personality and how we all mesh together and form our family here on the farm. And today I want to talk to you about my 3rd child. She is incredible and I love her so much. Her personality is full of happiness and giggles and a little bit of mischief. My husband likes to call her his Ollie Jolly because she's always smiling. She's never down, at least for any long period of time. She always has a grin on her face and is always trying to make something into a game or creating something beautiful because she loves to draw and she loves to create things and give gifts, and she's kind of amazing when she's not sitting with a coloring book or a pencil and a paper. She's up in a tree with fistfuls of fruit and talking to the animals and playing some crazy imagination game that she's made up. And when she's not doing that, she is out chasing the birds. She has this kind of amazing ability to track down and catch the birds. When we had free-ranging chickens, whether voluntarily or involuntarily, she was the one that could always round them up. It was always a struggle for me, especially, but also the other girls, to catch them and put them back on their pen at night, or if they got out, or if they were being unruly, to kind of keep them in a more secure place. But my daughter, number 3, Ollie Jolly, has always had the ability to just walk them and gather them up in her arms and talk to them and make really good friends with them and put them back into their pen or put them in their fenced area or with the chicken tractor or wherever it is that they need to be. I think that's like a quality of people, right? We don't have the fearsome claws or the sharp teeth or the incredibly thick hides, but we have the stamina. You could injure an animal or shoot a deer or something and they would take off, and as a human you weren't going to be able to keep up with the deer. Even in its injured state, it was going to run and you were not going to be able to catch it. But the hunter could walk after that deer continuously until the deer finally succumbed to its injury, and the human would still be behind it, ready to get it. And at that moment, that was when you'd have a successful, what would you call it? A successful kill, I guess. Kind of a darker example, but yeah, the idea that we have the endurance, even if we don't have any other natural defense or aggressive talents. And that's really her method. A chicken will kind of get crazy and wary if you're always trying to dive after it and catch it. But my daughter has a way of just walking behind it calmly and talking to it reassuringly, like, come on, little chicken, I'm going to take you home. And she just walks and walks and walks and walks and walks them until they are completely unawares that she has gotten closer and closer, and just scoops them up in her arms and pets them and loves on them and puts them away. It's an amazing ability of hers. Her favorite place to be was on a tree with a chicken or a duck in her lap, and she would just talk to it all day and feel its fluffy feathers and give it little kisses and pat it. And I just really wanted her to come out so that we could wash those hands and feet and get on with our day, because she's so good at catching the birds. I got her a little t-shirt. I think it was an ad because my phone was listening to me, and usually I get kind of upset and creeped out by it. But this one I thought was so perfect, and very happy that it showed up on one of my social media feeds as I was doom scrolling one night. But it says professional chicken chaser on it, and I knew she just had to have it. She loved it. She put it on and was super excited. Since we've had our chicken run and we don't have free-ranging chickens, our professional chicken chaser has been kind of out of a job. On occasion, we have sometimes someone forgets to shut the latch on the gate or leave the egg box door open, and then, she can kind of spring into action and collect all the chickens back into their coop. But on a day-to-day basis, she's kind of out of a job. Until a few days ago, actually, we've had this, what is a group of crows called? Is that a murder? Oh dear. We've had a murder of crows, ravens, or blackbirds. I'm not sure. My daughters told me how to differentiate between 3 different kinds, but one of those types of dark, black, noisy, ominous birds, the big group of them were hanging out, are hanging out at our farm. It's been a little bit troubling because they're very intelligent, and I haven't planted my corn yet because I don't want them to come in and decimate my corn patch as it's springing up out of the ground. And also, thankfully we don't have any chicks out like with their mother hens, because I think those birds are pretty carnivorous and predatory, and they're known to just steal little hatchlings away from unsuspecting mothers. I mean, that's why we have a rooster. But sometimes if there's a whole group of them, the name murder is pretty appropriate for what they do. Sorry to be dark. They have been pestering our guineas. Our guineas kind of roam wild through our farm, like eating the ticks and bugs and things. Right now it's springtime, and the pairs of guineas, because guineas are monogamous birds, have been kind of moving away from the regular group and becoming broody and making nests in the tall grass. And I'm assuming in a couple of weeks or so, we're going to be inundated with little tiny fluffy marshmallow chicks and very protective and slightly dangerous mothers. But the crows have been really bothering the pairs that are hiding in the grass, and I think stealing eggs and maybe even chicks that have hatched. So it's a little bit discomforting, to say the least. And anyway, so these birds, these giant crow, raven, blackbirds, whatever they are, have been pestering our chickens. The other day, they managed to find kind of a bigger gap where the chicken wire was loose, because we did have an episode for a little bit of time where Alpha had developed a hankering for chicken grain. It was very strange, but he had chewed through the chicken wire on one side of the coop, and I was very upset at him, and he knew he had been a bad boy. But so we had kind of put up a barrier on the chicken wire so that he wouldn't keep doing that, and the chickens themselves hadn't noticed it, but I guess there was a little spot that was kind of more open than the rest. And these pesky little blackbirds, not blackbirds, we'll just call them crows, decided to find their way into the chicken run. And they all did. It was like a group of 8 or 9 giant crows, and they were eating the chicken feed. And then when they wanted to leave, unfortunately, they couldn't find their way back out. And so the girls noticed from our kitchen window like this flurry of wings and squawking happening from the chicken run. So they all ran out there. I was out in the garden, and I hear a lot of yelling and screaming. There was a great hullabaloo, and so I trudged from my garden over to the chicken run and saw just a massive flurry of black feathers, like swooping in huge circles through the chicken run. Our chicken run is pretty big for the amount of chickens we have. It's about 40 feet by 50 feet, maybe, I think. It's large. And the crows were just flying from end to end, like throwing themselves against the chicken wire, because it's a completely enclosed run, and they couldn't get out. They're kind of scratching at the corners and up at the roof. And you could tell that they'd been doing it for a while, and all of our terrified hens were sort of in the corner, huddled together. And our poor rooster, Romeo, is a lover, not a fighter. And he was huddled in the midst of his hens, watching these giant swooping birds flying overhead. I don't know if you've ever heard a crow's wing beat, but it's kind of this sound over and over again, and they're just enormous up close. I think their wingspan looked like 3 feet across, and they're just flying at you with talons out and their giant beaks, and just going as fast as they can around and around this coop. And my girls are sort of standing in the middle against the posts because there's no way to stand up fully or, make it from one end to the other, because they just keep streaking back and forth trying to find a way out. Except for my little chicken chaser. She had on a little dress, and she would just walk the perimeter kind of slowly with her arms outstretched and wiggling her fingers and just saying, "Come on, Mr. Crow. Come on, Mrs. Crow. I'm going to walk you home. I'm going to get you so you can go home." And she just walked the perimeter over and over, like completely unprovoked by the giant flapping of wings and the desperate kind of panting caws that these crows were having, because they were exhausted and they were terrified. Even I wasn't able to just grab them like you would a chicken because they were so big, and I really did not want my face to be torn out or have to go to the emergency room because I got scratched and needed to get checked for rabies and whatever. But she was just calmly following them, and every now and then a crow would kind of stop in front of her, catch its breath, and in that minute she would pick it up and she would walk it out to the gate, and it would be so still as it was holding it. I'm sure it was terrified and thought it was going to die, but it would just hold still, and she would walk it out to the door of the chicken coop and set it out on the ground, and in a second it would spread its wings and fly off and just screech toward its friends, and then she'd go back in again and kind of walk the perimeter. "Come on, Mrs. Crow, it's your turn. I'm gonna catch you, and then we're gonna go out." Just in that sweet little patient professional chicken chaser manner. And she caught 4 or 5 crows that way, and I just kind of watched her flabbergasted, like, who is this child in front of me? And her sisters helped route the rest of the crows. A few of them figured out where the door was, and they would fly in that direction. When we were down to a couple crows left in the coop, Romeo decided that was his time to shine, and the other hens also sort of began harassing the rest of the birds, which actually made catching them and getting them out a little bit more difficult, because now we had all these multiple different barriers coming at the remaining birds. But my daughter kept her little walking the perimeter, walking back and forth, never in a hurry, never exasperated, never upset. Just her continuous, "Come on, Mr. Crow. Come on, Mrs. Crow. It's time to go. I'm going to get you, and I'm going to put you outside." It was so wonderful. I wish I had my phone so I could have snapped a picture or a video of something, because I just couldn't quite understand what was happening. But that's my daughter for you. Each one of them is amazing, and I could share a story about all of them. But today I'm talking about her because she cleared the chicken coop. She was so patient. She got all of them out. And then afterwards, I ran quickly to my husband's office and you will not believe how many crows your daughter caught and got out of the chicken coop. And he stopped and he's like, "Oh, wait, yeah, I meant to go get them, but there's so many and they're so big and I didn't have time. So I was really hoping that they didn't do much damage." And he kind of paused and looked at me like, "They're all out?" And I said, yeah, she caught all of them. And she just let them out one by one. And that's my Ollie Jolly, he said. She really is the professional chicken chaser upgraded to the professional bird catcher. I know that whenever there's a bird that needs to be caught, she's the one that's going to do it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Silver Goose Farm Stories. We're always happy that you took the time to stay with us. If you want to hear more about our farm, you can check out our website, silvergoosefamilyfarm.com, and see the day-to-day happenings on our Instagram, same handle, Silver Goose Family Farm. If you want to leave any comments or questions or any other things you'd like to know about us, please do so. We love to hear from you. And hopefully I'll have another story to share with you soon. Bye.